perseverance. Yesterday, I went over my good friend Aaron's house, and we worked out, and it was very tough, but I had to endure through it. As Christians, God says in Romans 5:3-4, that perseverance produces character. It reads, "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance or endurance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." This teaches us that we should learn from our own sufferings and take what we learn and use it. But what if we feel like we can't do it anymore? When Aaron and I were working out, he finished before me. I felt like giving up, and it was very tough, but I was able to keep going because he encouraged me. He kept telling me that I could do it. He kept telling me to keep going, and that's what we should do as Christians to each other. In Proverbs 27:17, it says, "As iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens the other." So be strong in the faith, and let us encourage one another when we need encouragement.
Good afternoon. I'm going to ask you to think about something think about someone that influences you, or someone that you have a lot of influence on. I want you to think about how you influence them or how they influence you. Now, do some of those people that influence you, do they make you have a good character or a bad character? I would say that everybody has people influencing every day, on a daily basis, at least, to make you think or affect your character in some way. Character is defined as who you are on the inside and your internal thoughts and what you're thinking, even when nobody's looking. Influence has many aspects. These aspects are reputation and disposition. Reputation is what other people think of you and how they see you. Disposition is your temperament or your mental outlook on how those people influence you. I believe that your family plays a big role in how they influence you on others and how you influence them. Also, the world influences you in some way every day, which can affect you in a bad way or a good way. I have my 3 points are going to be your influence in family, your influence in the world, and then to end it off, we're going to talk about how God builds your character and influences us. My first point is your influence and family. Your parents are a part of you for the rest of your life, no matter what. They teach you at an early age between the right and wrong, and they always wanted you to do the right thing. But sometimes you chose the wrong thing, and you had consequences. For me, it was spankings. We all got spanked when we messed up. So I would say that the influence given by your parents taught you how to influence others and help them, and so that you can teach them in the right way. Also, your siblings, your older siblings, if you have older siblings, you might fight with them, or you might, always have disagreements. But at the end of the day, they can teach you a lot of things. I would say that my brother teaches me a lot of things that I know now, because it's a very good influence if you have an older sibling, because they've lived longer than you. If you have younger siblings, I would say you can influence them to do the right thing, and you teach them from your mistakes and help them make hard decisions. Just like Ian, when he went to Aaron's house, he was giving up. He just wanted to get done and be done. But Aaron encouraged him, and that's what you should do to your younger siblings. When he mentioned iron sharpens iron, you should sharpen your younger siblings. I would say a good example from the Bible for how your influence and your family is Joseph in Genesis 37 and 39, on how your family influences you. As you can see, Jacob loved Joseph more than the other children, which might not have been the best thing, but it made his brother hate him. Just in Genesis 37, 3 and 4. His brothers hated him so much that they sold him into captivity to the Egyptians and made him a worker for them. In Genesis 37, 25 through 28. When Joseph went there, he was at first he was a worker and he was, low, But then over time, when he became a person of power and the famine hit the land where his family was from and they didn't have any food, he still had this integrity to do the right thing, even though that they treated him so poorly, and that he treated them nicely and gave them food, even when they didn't even realize it was him. In Genesis 39. My second point, your influence in the world. The world is always having some effect on your influence and character, no matter what happens. It always will. The world, you go out in the world daily, every week, and it's always going to have some influence on your character. The devil is always seeking to activate his selfish, evil character and deny the glory of God by the misuse of humanity. In 1 John 2:16, it shows how the devil tempts us in the world to act, and that God is not of the world. I'm going to read that. It reads, "For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world." We also are tempted to react by fighting or being frightened or running away from tough situations. The temptations can come from manipulators or people that just are bad to you, like bad friends or false teachers. I would say that a good verse for that would be Matthew 7:15, when Jesus is talking to the disciples that you should beware of false prophets because they appear to you in sheep's clothing, but inward they're ravening wolves. If someone makes us mad by saying something, then we can react in a way that shows our character. How we react to difficult situations without being bitter can show our character. In Proverbs 1, it says, "A wise man will listen and increase his learning, and they shall take advice from wise counsels." It also says that the beginning of knowledge is the fear of God, and that the fool despises wisdom and teaching. In Proverbs 1:10, Solomon was talking, and he says that, "My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thee not." So he's saying here that he wanted his son to know that if sinners come around you and try to influence you in a bad way, that you shouldn't give in to them. You shouldn't endure. Joseph also had to act on his influences and characters when Potiphar's wife came for him. She was trying to influence him to do bad and break his character to sleep with her, which was a sin. But Joseph had that integrity just when he talked to his family, just the same way. He acted on a good character and did not fall into sinning with Potiphar's wife. Also, David acted on a bad character when he was tempted by the devil and sinned with Bathsheba. He had sinned by lusting after her and getting her husband killed in battle. Even though he had sinned, David asked God for repentance and was forgiven of them, but he was grieved over them, just like when he recorded the Psalm 51. As Christians, we should have a good character and influence others, but when we are not influencing others in a good way, we are sinning. We should also take the example from James 1:19 and 20, which reads, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God." My third point, how God builds our character and influences us. God made humans from the beginning, and he knew that things would be here to influence us in good or bad ways and affect our characters. One way God builds our character and influence is through our suffering. Just like Joseph, when he was tempted, he did not sin, and it was because the Lord was with Joseph. Also, David did not. When he did sin, God forgave him when he repented for his sins. God shows us that we might suffer by being tempted and sinning, but we can be forgiven and have a good character and influence others for good. Even Jesus was tempted. Jesus was tempted by the devil when he was spending the 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. And still, Jesus didn't give in. These and bad ways and makes us have a bad characters. God also puts in the Bible for us of the things that can make us have bad influence on others. Just like in Galatians 5:19 and 20 through 21, he talks about all the things that the devil hates. He also talks in Proverbs 6:16 through 19 about the things he doesn't like and that are sins. These things are sins that can lead us to a bad character and consequences that influence us for the worse. God knows what is best for his people and what can make them have good characters and influences by following his word. As Christians, we should look towards God and apply him in our influence and characters because we have a reward waiting on us as Christians. If you are not a Christian, though, you might have a good character and influence, but you will not be able to receive this reward, as is read in Matthew 7:21 through 23. And it reads, "And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, that ye work iniquity. Therefore, whatsoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon the rock." But you can be saved today because God sent his Son to this earth to die for our sins so that we can be forgiven of them. God sent his Son to make sure that we have a plan that we can make it to heaven so that we can have this reward. Also, if you've fallen away and because you've had a bad character or you've been influenced to do something that's sin, you can also ask God for forgiveness. You can come forward at this time as together we stand and sing.